Hey there, welcome back guys. In this video we're going to be putting together Wall-E. That's right, the 3D printed version of Wall-E. As you can see, I used three different color filaments here. Some filaments I find extract and some filaments I find retract. I find that this particular filament that's multicolored seems to retract when being printed, but it didn't mean that it didn't print. It just means that some parts might have to be scaled up, right? And some parts might have to be scaled down. Knowing that and moving forward, in this video, we will go over that too. And as you can see, check it out. There's Wall-E. Managed to put him back together. So I'll walk you through on how to put him back together. Really neat. Gotta love him. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so here are the tracks. The tracks were printed with a different PLA that's sort of a multicolor. It is a little bit thicker, and this type of filament sort of retracts when heated and printed, so it might be a little bit smaller. So you would have to scale up depending on your PLA, and you won't know until you actually print it. And it's a little bit stiff, as you can see, but also it basically works. But you might have to basically loosen each of the tracks individually so that you can have them spun around the where it needs to go. And as you can see, this is how the body prints, which is really nice. All prints, print differently with different PLA, but this one prints really well, as you can see. And we'll just take a glimpse of the camera to have a little bit of a look. As you can see, it's just about done, and got no spaghetti. And the final, look at that right here. The finished product is right here. So basically it prints like this because you're going to fold it and put it together. It's basically ready to print and assemble, if that makes any sense. A little bit tricky to assemble, but pretty straightforward. As you can see here, we have it laying flat. We're just going to speed up the process. You fold everything, so kind of like a puzzle from 4D to 3D in a way. Don't force any of the parts. Everything will flow naturally, and if it doesn't, then there could be some issues with your printing. But there's another video I have that will show you how to print parts individually if you accidentally break one and just need one or two pieces. And hopefully, unlike myself, you might need no pieces, or maybe you might need one piece, because there was one piece I broke in particular that just needed to be printed again. And instead of waiting the 10 to 16 hours, depending on your settings, it only took about an hour to print the new part. And as you can see here, everything folds in, slides in, fold and slide, bend, bend, slide, fold, fold, slide, bend. If that makes any sense, it's pretty repetitive in the process of the assembly, but very straightforward. And sometimes you'll hit a wall. You can get a little bit of a snag, but it works when it works. And if you hit a little bit of a snag, you can always go into reverse. So when you put a piece in and you're like, oh no, it's wrong, but that's okay. You can always go back. That's how well this STL file is put together. Some STL files, make the print project hard like a rock, and other STL files, print like this, where everything is evenly distributed when it comes to the filament, and it just works in a way that makes it flexible, works in a way so the assembly process, will just go the way it needs to go. And as you can see, the wheels here go in one particular way. They push in, so you fold them right in the direction that they need to be folded, and then you basically push them in from the bottom. So right about here, see, it folds out, and then you're going to push it in, so it just goes all the way. It's supposed to click in. If it doesn't click in, like mine didn't seem to click in the way it was supposed to, so I basically glued it. But sometimes you may need to, as you can see, open the side shafts, open the doors a little bit, so that you can get the pieces to finagle in there. Even though in the how-to video that shows you on the website where you download the STL, everything happens so seamlessly and fluid, but as you can tell, it's not as seamless and fluid, because sometimes the prints, depending on the printer, every printer has a different experience with different filaments, different temperatures, etc. But the good thing is that what you really want to aim for is everything folding the way they're supposed to. And if they don't fit in, all the way, you snap them in. And if they don't snap in, you can basically glue the parts in. And as you can see, this one's a little bit tricky, but it's managing. And I'm just like, wait, why doesn't it go in? why doesn't it go in? And it doesn't go in because it just won't. And so in the end, I'm probably going to have to wind up using some super glue just so it holds the base of the wheels, which the tracks go around. And I'm like, wait, why doesn't it go in? And eventually I finally realized that it doesn't go in. Now this particular part is a tad tricky. It's the base part that holds the head in, and if you don't pull it out right, basically you're going to have to print it again. This was a piece I had to print again because in the video, as you saw, oh, it just pulls right out. But in my case, I didn't have that experience as they did, and I was actually glad to have been able to figure out how to print a new piece without actually having to print the whole thing over again. As you can see, I bent it in, but it popped around the edges, so it was just cracked, and I was like, darn, I have to start from scratch again. And then after doing some research, I was able to figure out how to print the part individually. But I'm still putting it together just to get an idea of things, because I want to, you know, usually sometimes during the process other parts might break. So in the meantime, I'll just figure this out. And remember, you can undo everything. We could actually, as long as you don't glue them shut, you know, you can take them apart and you know, reassemble them again if you're not happy with the way things look. Maybe you want to print his belly a different color. Maybe you want the wheels to be a different color. And as you can see, you know, everything slides in on the flap, and then when you push it in, it should click automatically. And once it does that, as you can see, you can just move forward and put the tracks on. The tracks are a little bit tricky because if you remember my saying that they're really tight, and I think they should have been scaled up a little bit. I'm not sure if it's between 110 and 105. I would probably start at 110 and then do the next one between 6, 7, or 8, depending on the filament that you use. As you can see, this beautiful bluish green filament retracts when heated, so it makes things a little bit smaller and snug, whereas the yellow or the gray sort of extract and they sort of become bigger, whereas this one is a little bit of a tighter feel slash fit. You know, and I didn't know this until printing it, but it's a struggle to get on. This filament is probably more suitable for the dragon or statues or other fixtures like that. I wouldn't recommend it with moving parts. It can be done, but you know, just it's challenging, as you can see, to squeeze the parts back in together. And who knows, maybe the 110 might be a little bit too much, right? Maybe 105% at scaling it up, not down. And then you know, as you can see, I'm like, wait, let me just try and see if I can just clip them in this way and then squeeze them on. But that didn't seem to work. You actually have to undo it and put them on and use the middle base as a solid ground to apply pressure when pushing the tracks. And as you can see, eventually I got it. It was hard, a lot of pressure on the hand, so I figured, hey, maybe the second one will be easier to put back in. But no, it's a little time consuming because you have to bend each and every track individually so that it just unfolds and turns into somewhat of an oval shape. And as you can see, it's able to go around, but it's just really snug. It's just missing. I wish I could print an extra track individually. Maybe so. I might be able to do that if you use follow the video on the how to print one individual part. I wonder if that would actually work. That would probably require taking one of the tracks apart and experimenting with it, but that could work too. It might make it a little bit too big though. And here we are. We have our hands, or somewhat robot hands, robot fingers. He's only got like a 2 thing, and then we have his arms right here. Have a bluish green tint to it, which is really nice. Thankfully, these printed in dynamic, as you can see. They move really well. And now we're just going to try and see if we can put them together. You want to loosen the parts first a little bit. And as you can see, these broke because of the settings were not so great. So I managed to actually get them to print in dynamic. And I'm just going to try and see if I can put them in. As you can see, this is a newer arm and hand, and it's going right in. And remember, use the dynamic settings in Cura. Custom settings, unless you know what you're doing, that's the only way to get them to print. And as you can see, now we're just going to open it up a little bit from the top side, because remember, the arms go in. And the arms you may want to scale down, because as you can see, I had a little, it's really snug. And I think if the arms were made at maybe 98 or 96% scaled down, they would have slid in a little bit easier. They still slid in, but it took a lot of muscle and power, and depending on your settings, Thankfully mine were dynamic, they were really strong. If you don't have them, have it set to print strong, then it's possible you might pop them and they'll break and you wind up printing them again. So as you can see, a little bit of a struggle, but you do manage to get them in. Again, use the dynamic settings in Cura, which by default will make your settings strong, and of course dynamic settings do take longer to print opposed to standard. But again, unless you know the settings so you can get it to print strong and in less time, that's the only way you're going to save on time. And it's just about done with his arms. Look at that. And now we're just going to put in this little handle piece. This is more for cosmetics, the feature for the looks of things. It's a really nice thing. It just pops right in. You can glue it or leave it. It doesn't serve any function to Wall-E, other than the fact if it tilts back, it may slide back. But you see, I got it in. You could always jam it in with clay or glue, and look at that. The head moves. I was able to reprint the head, as you can tell. There we have here. These little structure things, these little cosmetic pieces are really nice, but we need to be glued. Basically, I use super glue to put them on, and you probably want super glue with a brush. Even though I tell you how great my glue tube is of super glue with that does everything with the beads, it was really hard to put them on, and I wish I had a brush. And I'd recommend, if you can get super glue with a brush, that would be great for these particular parts. Not these, but the ones that go on top on the edges, because they fold and it's so thin that it just doesn't do justice with the beads, and glue kind of gets in places you don't want it to. But then you just wind up using a brush. If you have an old paintbrush you're ready to sacrifice and throw out, so you can spread the glue a little bit, you're pretty much golden, because once the super glue gets on the brush, the brush is gone and can no longer be reused, since it'll be stiff and the bristles will be glued together. And as you can see, hold it with your fingers. If you get glue on your hands, use nail polish remover to get it out, or whatever glue remover you might have. That's even better than the one I just suggested. And as you can see, you just got to hold it. In the video they make it look so easy, but if you go back and look at the video and how he's putting together Wall-E, you'll see that he holds it, and then as soon as he lets go, the back pops out. So basically, it's just done for we didn't get to see the rest of it. And as you can see, this video is actually sped up at 300%. So in the next part of the video, I'm going to show you how I reprinted his head, because as you can see, I broke the tubes that go in the back, but it's printable if you look at the video and follow along on how to print individual parts. And there he is. Here's Wall-E. Had to reprint him because the hoses in the back kind of broke as I was assembling him, but I'm going to show you how to put him on without breaking the hoses. I thought everything was uniform and in sync when it comes to being put together, and they are, but remember the build and how strong they are. Each individual part has its own strength and weaknesses. So as you can see, it's fresh off the plate, so usually new prints are hard to take off the build, and when they are, you want to be careful with this one. So see those tubes, you want to be able to just wait, and if you wait, you see it'll just slide right off the bed. 1, 3, 2, 1. Remember, it's too hot. Wait with the build plate so that basically you can flick it right off, like you've shown you guys in other videos. Has one, see, just like that. And then once you can do that, you'll bring it over to where it needs to go so that you can put them together. But again, I can't stress, be careful with the tubes, okay? Otherwise, look, as you can see, this one broke off, and that's just from the pressure of either taking it off the board and trying to rip it off, or trying to put him put his head onto his body, because it does require some pressure and finding the right joints to finagle it in. And as you can see, look, his arms move in any particular direction, up, down, and they also spring out, which is amazing how you can just print moving parts. And look, I tried printing him in blue, and this filament didn't work out so well. So sometimes you might think it's your printer, but it could also be the filament, and that blue-green filament might need another settings. But again, don't break the tubes, and like this one did. So what you do is you just pop them in, you see, and it's going to require some pressure to put the eyes into their sockets in the back. But you find the hole, and once it slides in, what you're going to do is apply pressure, but apply pressure, see, like that. So I'm not touching the hoses. If you touch the hoses and apply pressure, it's going to pop off. But we could print that again individually. And as you can see, we got that. all good and ready to go. Might have to apply a little bit more pressure, but you'll know because you'll see if it's flush. If it's not flush, then you know that it will require more pressure to go in. Although, and remember, don't break it. Applying pressure like I did with these over here. Again, it does happen. You can print it again, but it's really time consuming. So hopefully, this video will help you. And as you can see, the green blue didn't really do well anyway. And I'm not crazy about that color. I think gray gives it more of a robotic look. I think the other filament is more for like the dragon. But here, look for the grooves. There are like two little grooves in here, which you're going to match up, right? With the other part of the head. You'll see these two things sticking out, two little knobs. And you want to line up the knobs with the grooves that are there. And now what you want to do is, as you can see how I'm holding it, is do it in a way so that when you apply pressure, you don't break the tubes in the back of his head. Because again, if you do, unfortunately, you'll have to print it again. So this particular piece goes in at an angle, all right? And when you put it in, make sure, right, that you have the text facing up, because as you can see, the text goes out and up in the direction of the way, whichever way his eyes are looking, okay? And then what you'll do is you'll find that right angle, that right sweet spot, and then you'll squeeze it in. But when you squeeze it in, try to avoid applying pressure or pushing down on the tubes. As soon as you push down on the tubes, those little straw thingies, they will pop off and break like you saw in the previous section of this video. But that's okay, you can do it. See, voila, I think I got it, but we double check and you'll know if it's bulging out a little bit, if it's not all the way in. You can tell by looking, and as you can see, I'm gonna have to do it one more time. It takes one or two, but remember, it's a particular angle it goes in. Look for the two knobs, little raised bumps, and then those bumps go into the grooves. I can't stress anymore because it's no fun having to print this thing again. And as you can see, I think I almost got it. And one more, I'm just going to apply a little pressure from the top. And I believe, yeah, that's it. His head folds back. Don't worry about it. It's not broken. Just be careful. Make sure nothing breaks. And as you can see, the eyes, the arms, I would probably scale down the arms. No, the hands. Scale down the hands. And then if you scale down the hands, you'll have to scale down the arms too. Only because the arms are really hard to get in, and that was at 100%. So if I scale the arms and then the tracks. So anyway, I'll leave a note in the descriptions. I'll probably put together another video on how to scale Wall-E so that everything just fits beautifully and his wheels turn. His wheels do turn, but because the tracks are so tight, it just doesn't work that way. But my daughter's happy with it, so she actually says, I'm glad the wheels don't move. So if you don't want the wheels to move, print them at 100%, and then if you do want the wheels to move, print them maybe at 110. And then for the arms, in order for the arms to go in, I would probably scale them down at maybe 95, and then the hands to 94. You decide the number ratio that works best for you according to your filament. And I'm just going to take off this blue tape, but as you can see, these numbers work somewhat good, but they could be better, if that makes any sense. And look at that. You see, we got his arms. They can move. We have, and all the parts that were glued are sticking thanks to the super glue. You can move them down. You can move them around, on their track that they're on, the arms, but it's hard to move them back. So, if you want to move the arms, do the scaling and up and scaling down, and figure out those right numbers that work well for you. As you can see, I'm trying to push the arms in a particular direction, and it's not working, but I'll eventually get it to go back where it needs to go. The eye sockets printed well individually. When I printed them together, they did okay, and then I wound up printing them one at a time. And now that they're ready to go, you choose the color. I kind of like this color combination, plus these are the only colors I have. You just put a little bit of the glue beads on there and make sure you put it into the correct socket. You see we got one in, but it dries within 5 to 10 minutes. And again, put some glue on if you get it on your fingers. Remember, nail polish remover gets it off, or probably 24 to 40 hours, it'll come off your hands naturally. With this particular glue, other glues, I'm not sure. And then you just drop it right in to its socket, and voila, apply a little bit of pressure. But this part is really straightforward. And here's Wall-E. Look at that, all done, put together. It took a couple of trial and errors, but we eventually got him. And as you can see, he's as good as new. Batteries not included. And look at that bluish green to the arm, depending on the the angle that the filament is printed. And there's his back piece. We actually glued it. There go his hoses in the back, which actually held during the print, which is great. We'll put him up on this little pedestal thingy and have a look at him from a distance so that we can get an idea of what you'll actually get too. And this is the kind of print you want to have in multicolor. You want to take your time, pause the print, print something in blue, print something in whatever color works right for you, or maybe you want to get a different color filament, but definitely, as you can see, he does well as a multicolor 3D print project. And whether it's on your desk, whether it's a gift, you decide, but I hope you had fun putting him together. Kind of neat, huh? Takes some time to put together. In the video tutorial where you download the STL file, it does not take 6 minutes, as you can see, because my video was done in real time, and I had to speed it up a bit so that you guys didn't have to sit through the whole process. But I do recommend getting a super glue with a paintbrush, even though the super glue I have has these little beads. Doesn't work too well when doing the sides. And if you're going to be doing more projects like this, it will come in handy and you'll be using it more than once. But look at that, Wall-E. The tracks, I would probably scale up a little bit. Start with 105 and see how that works, or maybe not even 105, maybe 110, just to get them so that they can move. I'll have to figure that part out, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to probably start at 108, do 108, and then 110, and see which one works better, so that the wheels actually move. The wheels do move, but the tracks are so tightly in there. But it's okay. She's happy with it. I'm happy with it. And as you can see, there's Wall-E. Kind of neat, right? It's probably his last day here since he's going to go upstairs. So I'm not sure if I want to print one for myself and scale it down, or maybe scale it up. But we'll see how the parts print out. Anyway, there you have it. There's your very own personalized Wall-E in different colors. It takes a little bit of time because, as you can see, the top part's gray, arms are bluish green, and you have yellow here. So that takes, you have to change the filament every now and again, but it's a fun, project. As you see, it's not something you just print and, set and forget. It's something you just work on and build and sort of customize. And it's a fold. See, it's foldable. Everything just folds right in. Anyway, I hope this video helped you in putting together your 3D printed Wall-E. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below, or ideas for other videos. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.